Thank you for purchasing your new Howard. This video is intended to give you all the basic techniques you will need to be a successful printer. As with anything new, if you spend a little time learning the basics now, you will find using your new Howard to be very easy. After you unpack your machine, you will need to install the handle. Note that it needs to go in the hole that is facing more towards the back of the machine. Notice 3 notches on the end of the handle. Experiment with each position to find out which is best for you. It is best to start with a middle notch. Now just tighten the screw. There are 4 rubber feet that you install on the bottom of the baseboard of the machine. You type package and follow the directions provided. When finished, your type tray should look like this. We suggest you keep the shipping box just in case the machine ever needs to be returned to the factory. Now you are ready to get started. First, plug the machine in. As you can see, there is a convenient on-off switch, so you never have to unplug the machine. I suggest leaving the machine in the off position when first getting started. This will allow you to get a feel for putting the type holder into the machine and feeding the foil without worrying about the machine being hot. Take your self-centering type holder and slide it into the type holder stand like this, making sure the black pillar screw is facing up. Remove any of the line dividers that are in your type holder. Now pull out one of your letters and look at the sides. You will see that one side has a notch cut in it. When placing the letters into the type holder, make sure the notch faces up towards the black pillar screw. Start with the H, then the O, then the W, and so on. Now set up the word imprinting. You will need to use a spacer between words. Make sure all the notches are facing up. Once you have your name set up, turn one of the black handles and tighten the holder down like this. Insert the push bar like so and tighten the black screw on top. This will keep your line straight. Make sure both screws are snug. You can use the self-centering type holder for printing monograms and dies. Here is what you need to do to the type holder to accommodate these larger letters and dies. Turn the type holder over and remove these 2 screws. This will remove the pillar and pillar screw, allowing the larger letters or dies to fit into the type holder. Now drop in your monogram like this and turn the handle and it will clamp the letters in like a vise. Inserting the type holder into the machine. Hold the type holder by one of the black handles. Look at the left side of your machine and you will see what is called the jib lock. It has a black rubber tip. Push back on the jib lock as you are sliding the type holder into the machine. Push the type holder all the way in until it stops. There is a built-in stop so that the type holder is centered into the machine. Setting the temperature. How will you know what temperature to use for a particular foil? Look at the back of your color chart. The foil application guide tells you what the correct temperature setting is. Look at one of the rolls of foil. You'll see a white tape with a number and a letter next to the number. The letter corresponds with this chart. Here we have 25K foil. As you will see on the chart, the 25K should be at 275 degrees. On the right side of your machine, you will see a red knob with numbers to the right of it. This is your temperature control. Turn the red knob and set the correct temperature at this silver mark. Turn the knob until you get to the correct temperature, 275. It will take 4 to 5 minutes for the machine to reach the desired temperature. Choose the right attachment for the job. This is what we call the work table. The work table is used to align any large items like napkins, Christmas cards, ribbon, etc. Remember, the manual has diagrams for all of these setups for your review. Let's first demonstrate printing a napkin. We only need to use the Y-arm assembly for napkins. Take all of the other parts off of your work table. I suggest keeping a small box by your machine to store these parts so they don't get lost. Note that the Y-arm can go into any of the 4 corners of the work table. Choose the one that works best for you. Now put the large screw through one of the holes from the back of the table. Lay the Y-arm on the screw and tighten it down with the large black screw. It should look just like this. The easiest part is aligning the napkin. Because the type holder is always centered in your machine, all you have to do is put the point of your napkin on 0 and bring the Y-arm to the edge of the napkin and tighten down. Now you will be centered from left to right on your napkin. Now install the work table. You will see 2 rails on the bottom of the work table. These slide on the base of the machine like this. To adjust the position for top to bottom, you just slide the work table like this. Notice the opening in the work table. This is for your cushion board. You received a dozen cardboard and 1 rubber cushion board with your machine. We suggest you try them both and see what works best for you. To install the cushion board, just slide it in the opening like so. You should never print without a cushion board in your work table. As a rule of thumb, the larger you imprint, the softer your cushion board should be. These boards are not permanent, so you need to turn them over or change them frequently to assure you get good, clean imprints. Once you install the work table, you are ready to install the foil. Always align your item before putting the foil on the machine so it is easier to see what you're doing. Installing the foil. Foil has a dull side and a shiny side. Install the foil on the front spool with the dull side facing you. Slide one of the discs inside the left side of the roll and the other inside the right end. Push firmly together and center on the front of the machine. Pull out 12 inches or so of foil and put your left finger here. Pull the foil around the machine on the right like this and fold over to a point. Push through the opening in the back of the machine while turning the hand feed knob on the right side of the machine. Your foil should appear out the back. If the foil is crooked, you can straighten the foil by lifting on the floater bar like this. Pulling the handle. Now comes the fun part, pulling the handle. Sit or stand in front of the machine. Put your hand on the handle like this and pull down. There are 3 important factors when imprinting. First is the heat, which is set thermostatically on the machine and will not change. The second is pressure, which is how hard you pull the handle down. Notice the little bit of pressure the handle is given when I press down. Third is the dwell time. This is the amount of time we hold the type on the item. A dwell of approximately 1/2 second is all that is ever needed. Slide your napkin in like this. Pull the handle. And here is your imprint. Notice I only hold the handle down for approximately 1/2 second. If you hold the handle down too long, you will not get a good, clean imprint. The most important factor is the pressure you give. Notice how I press down a bit once the type has made contact with the napkin. This is what we're looking for when applying the pressure. Don't be afraid to adjust the handle position to give you a bit more pressure and leverage. Adjusting the foil feed. Now let's check our foil feed to make sure we do not waste foil. The foil feed is how much foil the machine feeds each time you pull the handle. The objective here is to adjust the foil feed by turning one of these black knobs so you feed the amount needed for the size letters or die needed. Look at our first imprint and the spacing between imprints. Now by adjusting the foil feed, I can get these imprints to be very close together so you do not waste foil. Printing on ribbon. We will use the same work table that we used for printing the napkin. Install the ribbon reel and support with the screws provided. First, screw the reel support to the work table from underneath. You can install on the right or left side of the work table. I prefer the right side as I can pull the ribbon with my left hand while pulling the handle of the machine with my right hand. Next, install the reel. Put the screws down through the support and screw them into the threaded holes on the reel. Next, take the 2 large screws provided and put one in the front left corner and one in the front right corner. Now take the guide bar and put it in the 4th set of holes from the back of the work table. Notice that there is a pin on both ends of the guide bar that slides into the holes on the work table. Now take the H-frame and place it on the work table over the 2 screws, like this. Align the 2 slits here with the holes in the guide bar Take the 2 large black nuts and screw them onto the 2 large screws you installed on the front of the work table. Do not tighten the screws at this point. And insert the 2 flat-headed black screws. Notice how the H-frame slides back and forth. Now we are ready to install a roll of ribbon. The ribbon guide can be adjusted for many sizes of ribbon. Take a roll of ribbon and slide it onto the reel like so. Put the disc and locking hub on next. You want the ribbon to be held snug, but not too tight, or you will have trouble pulling the ribbon through the machine. Feed the ribbon through the H-frame like this. Notice that the ribbon goes under the hold-down straps, not through them. Now slide the H-frame up until the bottom edge of the ribbon is touching the H-frame and the top edge of the ribbon is touching the guide bar. This creates a channel that keeps the ribbon feeding straight while printing. Now let's slide the work table back onto the machine. Remember to put a cushion board into the work table before sliding it on the machine. Do not tighten the work table yet. When inserting the type holder for printing ribbon, it is very important that the black pillar screw is facing the back of the machine. If not, the handles on the type holder will hit the screws on the guide bar and you will not be able to print. With the work table not yet tightened, pull the handle down and visually see where the type is hitting. Move the work table as needed to position the ribbon directly under the type holder. Once you have this aligned, tighten the work table. Next, pull the handle and make an imprint. If you feel the imprint is not centered, just loosen the work table and move it in either direction until it is centered. Now that you are set up to make an imprint, pull the ribbon through the machine like this. The farther you pull the ribbon, the more space you will have between imprints. That's how easy it is. Printing wedding favor ribbon. When printing wedding favor ribbons, there are a few tricks we can show you. First is in the setup of the type. It is easier to make the finished ribbon if you have set the date first in the type holder, then the bride and groom's names. You may have noticed that I use the double heart die in place of the word "and." This is your choice. Now make an imprint, then pull the ribbon 8 to 10 inches. To get consistent spacing, some customers install a ruler to the work table, or just make marks on their table with tape. It is important that you pull the ribbon to the same point each time. Now make another imprint. This is how you can print the favor ribbon and achieve the names at one end and the date on the other. Take a pair of scissors and cut between the date and names on the first imprint. Now cut at the same point on the second imprint. Notice how we use the names of the first imprint and the date of the second imprint. If you want more space between the names and date, just pull the ribbon further, like this. Guest book. For the guest book, we will use the same work table, with the guide bar and side guide installed like this. To adjust the left to right position on the book, we will slide the side guide back and forth like this. To move the imprint farther up on the book, we will need to move the guide bar farther back on the work table to another set of holes. You can always loosen the work table and move forward or back for small adjustments when positioning the book. Always make a test print on a piece of paper first to check spelling and the print position on the book. Once you have the spelling correct and the position correct, we are ready to proceed. When printing onto books, do not pull the foil on the machine. First, make an imprint on the book once or twice without foil. What this does is flatten out the book or grain so you have a smooth area to print. Now lay a piece of foil over the book and print again. This will add the color. With books that have a lot of grain, you may have to print with the foil 2 or 3 times to get good coverage. Make sure you do not move the book between imprints. That's all there is to it. Printing a Bible. When printing a Bible, we recommend using the Model 150 machine because it has a smaller base plate and allows the spine of the Bible to be out of the way of the type holder. Printing on Bibles requires the use of this gauge bar. and also the cushion board provided with the gauge bar. You will see the gauge bar has two lips that align with the base of the machine. You slide the gauge bar on the machine like so. Now let me show you how to install the gauge bar with the cushion board. Hold the cushion board in your right hand and the gauge bar in your left hand. Slide the gauge bar on the machine, making sure you leave plenty of the cardboard cushion board hanging off the front of the machine. This will give you support for the Bible and also provide a place to clamp down the Bible. Here's how the gauge bar works. By sliding the bar back and forth, you determine how far up on the front cover of the Bible the imprint will be. By sliding the side guide left to right, you determine the location of the imprint from the right edge of the Bible. Now look inside the cover of the Bible and you will see a seam. You always want to make sure you print above the seam, or you will not get a good smooth imprint. Now make a test print on a piece of paper and lay the paper on the cover of the Bible to see if it is in the proper location. To move the imprint up on the Bible, loosen the screw on the gauge bar and slide the gauge bar towards the back of the imprinter. To move the imprint farther from the edge of the Bible, loosen these two screws and slide the side guides more to the left. Notice how the location of the imprint has changed. Once you have the positions where you want them, open up the cover of your Bible and place it on the gauge bar like so. Clamp the front left of the Bible to the cushion board. This will assist you in holding the Bible in place while printing. Now pull the handle down and print without foil a couple of times. Notice the pressure I give the handle when printing. This will pre-tool the leather and flatten out any grain there may be in the cover. This is especially important when printing on grainy leather. Now lay a piece of foil on the cover and pull the handle again. You should use a good firm pull, but only hold the handle down for half a second. If you hold the hot type on the cover too long, you will get a blurry impression. If you did not get a good impression, you can print over the same area again. Just make sure you do not move the book. Air operated. When using the air operated, Howard, all the type and attachment setups are the same. When you unpack the machine, there are 9 rubber feet you will need to install on the bottom of the baseboard. Next, you need to plug the machine to the back of the control box. Plug the control box into your wall outlet. On the front of the control box, 3 green buttons for the main power, the heater, and the foot switch. When you push each button, a light will come on, indicating the switch is in the on position. This is where you attach your air compressor hose. The machine is supplied with a quick connect that you can install on your compressor. If you purchased our compressor, this is already installed on the air hose. Pull back on the gold piece and connect like this. It helps if you hold the front of the filter bowl with your other hand. Now you have the air hooked up. The heat setting on this machine is the same as the hand-operated models we discussed earlier. There are 2 other adjustments you will be using on this control box. The air pressure that tells the machine how hard to come down, and the dwell time which tells the machine how long to stay down. First, let's discuss the air pressure. This is the air regulator. You may have to pull this knob out to adjust. Turn the knob to the right to increase the air pressure. You can look at the air pressure gauge here to see what pressure you are setting. For one line, I recommend starting with 40 pounds. The more lines you print, or the larger the die, the more pressure you will need. The maximum pressure for the machine is 125 pounds. Don't be afraid of using more pressure if you're not getting a good imprint. The dwell time is to the right of the air regulator. I recommend setting the dwell time setting just slightly past number 1. I find this works great for most jobs. You want to keep the dwell time as short as possible so you can keep your production going. Now let's demonstrate printing a ribbon on the air machine. First, let me show you an imprint where we did not use enough pressure. See where the whole imprint did not show up? Now increase the pressure by 10 pounds and let's look at the imprint. Now let me show you what happens if you set the dwell time too high. We will set it at number 4. See how the letters start filling in and the imprint is not as clear? This is caused by too much dwell time. Now let's make a few good imprints to show you just how easy it is to print with this machine. Two-line setup. When setting up two lines of type, you set the second line on top of the first line. The first step is to insert 2 or 3 line dividers. Notice how the first line is shorter than the line dividers. What you need to do now is take 2 spacers of the same size, put one on the left and one on the right. Now take 2 spacers of a smaller size and put one on the left and one on the right. It is important that you always put the smallest spacers next to the type, so that the spacers do not fall between the lines. You must also make sure you space the line of type out to be longer than the line dividers. Now set the second line. Again, you take 2 of the same size spacers and put one on the left and one on the right, until you get the second line close to the same length as the first line. See how the top line is still loose? It is very important that you use the spacers to get both lines the same length. Now you will use the small copper and brass shim spacers like this. Put one on the left and one on the right to get the second line the same length as the first. If you don't, your letters will fall out when you turn the type holder over. Open box type holder. When setting up the open box type holders, you set up your 2 lines the same as we have discussed. Now insert a few line dividers and place your die into the type holder. You use the building block theory to fill in the balance of the type holder. Take 2 of the same size spacers and put one on the left and one on the right. Repeat this step as often as needed. What you need to do is fill in the open area with spacers like this. You may need to use small copper and brass shim spacers. It is very important that you use the spacers to make sure all lines are the same length, or your letters will fall out. Once completed, take your type holder out of the type holder stand and lay flat on a table. Start tightening each screw a little and work your way around the type holder. This is to keep the letters flush in the type holder. You don't want any letters or spacers sticking up when we go to print, or you will not get a good clean imprint. If you follow these steps, setting up the open box type holder will be easy. In closing, we hope you found the information in this training video useful in setting up your new Howard. We recommend watching the video as many times as necessary until you are comfortable.